Hello, I'm Dave with Dave and Sonya, Michigan, and I have a battery and an inverter from BigBattery.com. And I'm going to start by unboxing the battery. It's a Nexus 14.3 kilowatt hour battery. The Apex inverters, a 6.5 kilowatt inverter. They also have a 10 kilowatt inverter, but this one's the smaller version. It's the 6.5. I'm going to start by unboxing the Nexus 14.3 kilowatt hour battery. So these actually come in a nice box, and the battery is actually 315 pounds by itself. So they put it in this nice wooden crate. And I just got to figure out the best way to get into it. So I got these little tabs on here that are bent over, and then the top should come right off. So I wanted to mention that we had done a build on a solar trailer, and it's completely off grid, and it uses the BigBattery batteries. And I bought those 5 years ago, and almost to the day. But 5 years ago I bought those. I haven't had a single problem with the BigBattery's that I bought for either my trailer or my truck. I actually have two setups that are technically considered, I guess, off-grid builds. I don't need any other devices to run those. So this is going to be a similar project here with this one. And if you want to stick around to the end of the video, I'll give some descriptions of this project also. But I haven't had any problems. My reasons for choosing BigBattery in the beginning was, the main reason was they were a US-based company. And I didn't like the fact of buying batteries from somebody else. If I was to have bought a battery, probably it would have been a US, not US, but Battleborn battery. That was probably the other ones that I was really looking at. And I found BigBattery at the time. They were in California-based company. They're now in Texas. Click up here to make sure you go to BigBattery's homepage and use our discount code DaveandSonya5 for 5% discount. So there's a lot of features with their batteries that I really liked. And those are legacy batteries, so they don't sell those anymore. But again, you can watch my video. It's in the description. And you can see what I did there. And similarly on this build, I'm going to be doing pretty much the same concept. Again, watch to the end of the video and I'll go over those details. But again, I still chose BigBattery because some of the benefits that I liked, and I worked with them on this. So we kind of partnered up on this, and they provided this inverter and this battery free of charge to me. And I'm going to go over some of the benefits that I really liked about BigBattery back then and what I still like about BigBattery now. So they're still a US-based company. They're actually now in Texas. They do have on the battery, it's a 12-year warranty, and that's more than I've actually seen anywhere else. And again, I've got my batteries in my trailer, and I haven't had a bit of problems in 5 years. So I can see why they would be okay with giving a 12-year warranty. And they also have US-based tech support. So that is actually really nice too, especially if you don't know a lot about what you're doing. You know, you can rely on them to call them and ask them information. And I actually did call them and ask them information on the inverter. So I know that's, for a lot of people, that's going to be really important to to have that tech support. And technically, the way they worded it was it's lifetime tech support, US based. So that's also good. You're not limited. You don't have to buy into a contract or anything. You can see that's a pretty heavy duty pallet. You can see more of the wood here. I'll show you that in a second. But actually, both of these come on another skid. So I think you can see the bottom of the skid down here. So these were both mounted onto another skid. They were wrapped with plastic straps, heavy duty plastic straps. So you can cut through those fairly easy with just a pair of diagonals or a pocket knife. And it was also wrapped in plastic, so just in case it was to rain. And we did have some issues with the delivery. They dropped it off originally in our driveway, several hundred feet away from our house. And the delivery company was actually nice enough to come back out and remedy that problem, but I can see why they would have wrapped it in plastic just in case it was raining during the delivery. So the total weight, just so that you know if you are to buy one of these, it was 419 pounds listed on the paperwork. So that ends up taking a lot of energy to move. Even just to get this into the house, I unpackaged it from the pallet and brought it into the house on a dolly. Yeah, let's see. And it still was hard to move. My wife's hammer. I'm going to use it. So if you think that this is going to be light, easy to move around, it's not necessarily going to be. So you got to plan for that. And even opening the box is still not going to be easiest. I could have opened this before the video, but I wanted you guys to see how difficult it was going to be. I knew it wasn't going to be simple. It's not really too hard, but it's a heavy duty piece of equipment, so it's not a toy. And the batteries that I put into the truck, I purposely got 3. Actually, back then, 5 years ago, they didn't make too many batteries that are big. They actually Big Battery did have, I believe it was called a Rhino. It was actually a big, large battery, and it was one battery. And there's some advantages of having one battery. But the batteries that I got 3 batteries for a 12 kilowatt system. This is 14.3. They're 3 batteries, and I believe they were 90 pounds a piece. So I knew getting this one battery was going to be rather large. So let's see, the first thing is we get to unpack. We got an owner's manual. That's good. We got a communications cable. We've got 2 communications ports on there. And we got a positive battery cable, a negative battery cable, and on this positive cable, inside the bag I can see there's 2 bolts. I'm assuming one's for the one cable, one's for the other cable. And just to mention, since I got the manual now, on their website, I actually got these 2 specifications documents. So readily available on their website. A whole lot of information in there. There's actually a quick start guide, and it actually goes through how to connect up the Apex inverter to the Nexus battery. And both of these are BigBattery's products. So they actually make the Apex and they also make the Nexus. They do sell inverters. EG4, I know, is one of them. But they also have the Apex, so it's for this one, the Nexus battery user manual, which is going to be the same as this one. I didn't know that they had it, so I had printed it off. And just for everybody's information, there's 65 pages here. And there's a lot of information in here, and this is very valuable to read through. Both documents were very helpful for me to read through initially. This is going to take a little bit of time. So we may speed the video up here. You can actually see how thick that wood is. It's probably 1/4 inch or maybe just a little bit bigger than 1/4 inch. That's actually really thick, nice box. Now that we got the crate apart, take the plastic bag off. You can see it actually says Big Battery here on the front, big display. It'll tell you the percentage on here. Actually, there's some code in the programming written in the manual. There's a green ring that goes around here. I believe it's solid if it's 100% the state of charge. And if you're charging it or if you're using it, that I believe that light starts to blink. Actually, I think it starts to blink when you're charging it. And then if you have an error, it'll actually turn red. So that's a good feature to be able to see and see if it's got an issue. Let me see if it's attached. Okay, it's not attached to the crate. But this is going to be a little difficult to get off, but we are going to see if we can get this off. So there is feet on the bottom of these, and actually maybe I can tip it up so you can see it. And I believe they called them elephant feet. That's kind of funny because right now my first 2 batteries, one was called the Owl, that's in the truck, and then the other 3 batteries were called the Hawk. So it's like they're named after animals. Not that I think that this is BigBattery's calling, but they call these feet the elephant feet. And you can lock them into position so that they don't continue to roll around. And it just makes it a little bit easier. Again, this is 314 pounds. So it is a little bit hard for me to lift up. But we'll see if we can get this off. Probably highly recommended for more than one person to do this. So I ate my Wheaties this morning, so you can see how well this pallet is made too. All the weight was setting on here, and this was also setting onto another pallet that this came on. But now that we got it off, the pallet, you can see how tall this unit is. It's up to the top of my legs. It is on wheels. You should be able to lock the casters in. And I haven't played with these. There's actually dials. You can raise and lower them. So that's actually raising and lowering the big rubber pads on the bottom. So once you lower that into position, it should probably stop rolling. So I'm pivoting on the one roll, on the one wheel right now. That's the one I lowered. And if you needed to, you could probably use that to adjust your height. Get it back onto the wheels. So all four of them look like they're the same. So again, here's the display, and I won't be able to turn that on right now. Actually, I might be able to. There's a on-off switch here. This is the Nexus. This is the back of the unit. So there is positive battery terminal, negative battery terminal that the cables will go to. There is no screws here, so that's what was in the bags. Then here's actually communications port, so RS435. You can see the port there. Here's another RS435, it's -2, this is -1. This is also a CAN port. And this is another RS485-3. So that would be what the communication cable is for. And this battery unit, it has internal BMS monitoring, but it also communicates with the APEX 6.5 kilowatt unit. And it's communicating, so it knows the state of the charge. It knows when we got to shut things off. So it does monitoring in both directions. And this would be the communications cable. So I can plug this in here, and then it automatically communicates. These batteries are meant to be able to communicate with other brands of inverters and vice versa. This inverter is also meant to communicate with other batteries. But there might be some internal programming changes that the user would have to do. Having both of these from BigBattery, most of the programming on the inside should be pre-programmed already. Still a good thing to make sure that as a user, we make sure that things are set up properly. Click up here to access the information page on the Nexus battery unit. And make sure you don't forget to use our discount code DaveandSonya5 for 5% discount. So we have this unboxed, but I want to see if I can turn it on. I don't have to wire it to anything. I don't have to do anything else to be able to use it. So I didn't have to plug it in. I didn't have to do anything. Batteries are all inside. So right now it says its state of charge is 49%. That brings up another good point I want to make sure I mention. If you're not planning on using this for a while and you want to put it in storage and you want to use it, you do not want to run it and charge it at 100% and then store it away. So they shipped it at 50%. You think, well, I don't have to charge it fully and ship it. For batteries, the lithium iron phosphate batteries, like what's in here, you don't want to store long periods of time at fully charged. So this is charged, it's been depleted some. So if you are going to store it, you probably just don't want to charge it all the way. You can see the green light on here. That would be blinking red if there was an issue. I'm going to leave that on just because I like it. So I'm going to open the Apex inverter. This is actually an off-grid hybrid inverter. So it is not meant to be grid tied. This one is more meant for just being off-grid. Although I can connect it to the grid, and I'm not exactly sure why they call it hybrid. Maybe that's something I should have actually looked up. But what I believe is why it says hybrid is I can connect this to the grid. I can use it to the grid, so electrical system in your house or other means. I can use it to charge it. So that's why I believe that they're meaning by the hybrid. So this does have an 80 amp. If it's wired for 120 volts, it does have an 80 amp pass through. So if I'm plugged into my house and I'm plugging into this, and if this can only give me, well, this unit can give me 6,500 watts of output, but I can get an additional 8,000 watts from the house through this. So I can get 14 kilowatts there about total power through this unit if I'm plugged into the house. So that's why I believe they're calling it the hybrid. So you can wire this for 120 volts or 240 volts. And you don't need 2 units. So you can wire this as a single phase, or you can wire it as split phase. So both the 120 and 240 volts. And they do have information of that in the manual. I'm assuming the manual being here, but I also printed one off. And it does matter how you wire it, the sizing of the wire, depending on how you're going to do it. I have not decided yet on if I'm going to go 240 volts or 120. I am not, my current plans are not to use anything that's 240 volts, but it would be nice to have a circuit breaker box that's set up like a home style panel, which I can get just 120 volt, which I can just get 120 volt panel box. I'll have one main and everything after that will be 120 volts. So I could do it 2 ways, but it is set up so you could do either. And it looks like the box may have been meant to be laying down to open. So they give me a screwdriver, some inserts to mount into the wall, and some more heavy duty expanding inserts. And there's also 2 battery cable terminals in the bag. I have some battery cables in here also with this one. And they got nice boots over these terminals. The ones that come with the battery did not, yet the terminal covers are on the unit. Put this here. Here's a manual that I had mentioned. And another nice feature for this box, I don't know when it was made or packaged, but this manual was probably put in this box at the date of when this manual was printed. When I got it off of line, it should be the most up-to-date manual. So there is a QR scan code on here for the latest version. So even though you got the manual in here, you still probably want to go and print one off. So like I did. And then if there's any revisions to it, I do believe I saw in there that there's a revision log. So you could probably look at the 2 logs. I actually think I can see it here on the front page. So you could actually compare the 2 books and see if they are going to be the same. I think I see it. Yep, version history right here in the first page. So you can kind of see, so this manual date is 10/23 of 25. So it's not even 8 months old yet, but I could compare it to the other one that I had printed off. Let's see what else is in the box. Again, this is a nice heavy duty box. If you were to just get this by itself, this must be almost 100 pounds by itself, maybe somewhere between 80 and 100 pounds, because I actually put it up on top of the stool. So it still is pretty heavy, but for the UPS guy to just carry it, bring it on your porch, he could drop it on just toss it on the porch, not at 80 pounds, but it is heavy. Mine come in on a pallet, so it was moved around with pallet jacks. I moved them around with a dolly. But again, it's not a cheap little toy. I don't know if you just saw that, but I pulled that top off, which would be the top of the box, and right now it wants to slide forward. So you do need to be careful. So there's a silica bag. Another box of parts. This is the communication cable. I'll show that in a second. I just can't let go of this. Just checking to see if I can set it on this side. There's communication ports on the bottom. There's also feet sticking off of the back. So I should be fine. And make sure there's nothing else in the box. It looks like we're good. There's actually two nice handles. Let me show you. So this handle, actually never seen one like that before. It's spring loaded, so it tucks it away. There's a position at 45 degrees out and one all the way in. One on the other side too. There's one. I'm gonna get rid of this bag. So you can see both handles. This is the bracket you would mount it with. There's one on the bottom. I'll show you that here in a second too. I'm going to set it using the bracket, again, to protect what's on the bottom. Got a display in here and I can't turn that on and off. There is a protective film on there. The door here, which I thought I might be able to get open. I might. If I rotate it. So I do have an on-off switch here for the PV panel. So when you connect in your PV panel and the wiring on the inside, you can turn off the source to the PV panels. There's actually another switch here. And this, I believe, was the main switch for turning on the APEX unit. If we turn it all the way around to this side, again, there's nothing on the back. But on this side, you can see the label. It talks about your AC outputs, your AC inputs, battery inputs, your PV panel inputs. And just to mention on the PV panel here, this is the 6500 watts. This actually accepts two, so there's two MPPT charge controllers in here. So it accepts two separate inputs from PV panels. Each array of panels can be 5,000 watts. The APEX-10K, so the 10,000 watt unit, can actually have two separate arrays of 5,500 watts. So a little bit more input on the larger unit, but not much more. The 6,500 watt unit, this version, the smaller one, can actually have AC from the grid, so you can tie it into your house, your home, your barn. It can have an input from your utility group. It can also have an input from a generator. So this smaller unit can actually have an input from the home grid and a separate input from a generator. The 10 kilowatt unit, the larger unit, can only have one or the other. I imagine, and I don't remember the details, but I imagine you can have a larger input from the home source of power or from the generator. But this one actually I can have both at the same time. So you have to look into it and see what fits your needs. But as far as the PV goes, because that was a big important factor for me too, this actually has, I believe it was 500 volt. Actually, this was 550 volt input DC. I believe it's the same on the 10 kilowatt. It might be 600. max, but I think it was also 550 volt DC input. So I can, on the panels I'm going to get, I'm actually going to use 5,000 watt input on both channels, both inputs, dual inputs. So I'll have 10,000 watts of solar panels coming into this unit. And I put all of them in series. So you can do series, you can do parallel. Sometimes you got to do combinations of series and parallel. But because this voltage goes up so high, I can put them all in series. Then that leaves my current a little bit lower, so then I can use smaller wiring. And I believe this one was 18 amps max, and then the Apex 10K unit it was 21 or 22 amps max. So at 550 volts, I will have 10 panels, and I believe it'll be, well, I got 415 watt panels. It's actually going to be 12 panels. So that's going to be 4,900 some watts, 4,870 watts, something like that. So it is really important to make sure you get the right unit, you get your right solar panels. My solar panels will fit my roof just right. So you got to get the right combination of size and wattage and amperage and voltage. You got to get all those scenarios correct to make sure you're maximizing your inputs. So now, let me show you the bottom. Wasn't good. Wasn't that hot? Let's see if you can see. So there's quite a few communications ports and stuff on the bottom. This one's actually, there's parallel connections, and that's what this cable actually looks like to be. So you can put several of these units connected together, and if you wanted a larger capacity in your house. So that would, I'm assuming, is what this cable would be for. We also have a USB, a CT, a Wi-Fi, the RS485 and CAN port. There's a series of dry contact ports, battery minus, battery plus. This is your PV panel. So your wiring from your panels can come in here. And this is where I said you have a generator, your load. So this is the output from here, would be the middle one. And then grid. So you can tie this to the grid so you can have some pass through. So you can actually get more than the 6,500 watts from here. Let's see what's in this box. A stick logger. I'm assuming that might be some kind of error logging type. We don't know what this is. I didn't see this in any information. There is a manual. So stick logger quick guide. There's an app. This is a download QR code for the app. And it looks like they show that you can mount it to the wall. It comes right out of the inverter, the RS485 port. So that'd be the only one that's on the bottom. This plugs into the top of this box. So there's four plugs in there. This can only go in one way. I can see the little key there. And we will take off this tie so I can show you. There's a little nut on here. You should be able to push up. It's pretty tight. Okay. This is threaded down here, but it doesn't look like that goes up to the threaded part. So I felt that it locked in. It goes up and it only turns about a quarter of a turn, half a turn, and it locks in place. So it does not go on to the full threaded section. So I do not know what that threaded section is for. But it looks like you can plug this into the wall or mount it onto the wall. This just sets in there. That plugs into the bottom. And there's actually a net, a COM, and a ready LED on here. Again, I don't know what those are for. This would be something for me to look into more. So it's mentioning the logger status. So communication with the router, communication with the inverter, and then logger running status. Abnormal state processing. So it shows you the 3 lights. It'll say any state, off, or slow flashing. So then you can have, so for the net, you can have any state, off, slow flash, fast flash, any state. For the COM port, you can either have on, off, or any state. And then the ready one, you got a slow fast, an off, and any state, and then a flash fast. So between those LED readings on here, you can actually see what the fault cause is, and then it looks like it'll tell you the solutions. So this looks like this might not be something you would need to plug in all the time. It looks like it might be something that you would plug in just this if you have communications issues or some kind of issues with this unit. And another, let me flip this back up. It's shown that on the bottom you had the holes in the bottom. So one you could tie to the grid, one you could tie to the load, and one you could tie to the generator. So they do have breaker switches in here, and they have them separately for the generator, the load, and the grid. They look like they are, each one are identical, they're the same. So they're listed at 63, so I believe that's 63 amps a piece. I plan on, for my load, I will be coming out of here. I will be going into a load breaker box, so a circuit breaker box like you have in your house. So I will have another breaker on there, controlling my individual loads. There is a battery breaker here in the middle, a 200 amp breaker. I do plan on also having on this is I'm sure you've seen them, the red, they're rather large, not that big around. It's a switch basically, and use that in a lot of these battery setups, and it disconnects the battery itself from the unit. And then you can put a fuse in line with that also. And I plan on doing that anyways. This panel does not, or at least currently, does not come off relatively easy. But if I had an issue, I could just flip that switch really quick, and then I could isolate the battery from here. You do have the ability of turning off this unit with this switch. You can turn off the PV switch here also. But on the PV side also, I have purchased a combiner box, and I will show that in some of the next videos, later videos. But the combiner box will bring my power from my panels, my 2 separate arrays, bring it to the combiner box. And the combiner box, then I can bring it into here as one. Actually, it'll be 2 inputs into here, but they're independently switched in the combiner box. So it also has breaker box, breaker circuits in there, circuit breakers in there, but it also has lightning suppressors, breaker in there also. So I believe that the combiner box is also going to be another good source, but it also does a good source of protection. But it also does matter how you disconnect your power from your unit. So there's a certain order combination, and you will probably want to write it down somewhere. You could even copy it out of the manual. I've seen it in there. copy it out of the manual, put it next to the unit so that you know you're disconnecting things in the proper orientation, which I believe the first one is to make sure you turn off the PV panels. So, because you can run just the unit with the battery and the inverter. So the PV panels is what's added later. So that'd be the first thing you turn off. You don't want to bring in power from the panels into the unit, the inverter, and not have anywhere for the power to go. So you don't want to turn the battery off first. I do want to mention, and I am going to revert to, make sure this doesn't want to fall. It doesn't, but tip it a little bit anyways. If you look into the manual, and I'm gonna have to read from here, and you will understand why here in a second. So there's a whole lot of protection that are on these, and it's here. There's another technical specifications page. There's a lot of information on this page, but the overload protection, and this is going to be specifically for the APEX 6500 kilowatt unit. So 6.5 kilowatt unit or 6500 watt unit. It has a PV input current limiting protection, PV input overvoltage, PV night reverse current protection, AC input overvoltage protection, AC input undervoltage protection, battery overvoltage protection, battery overcurrent protection, AC short circuit protection, heat sink over temperature protection, inverter overload protection. That's a whole lot of protections that are in here. Click up here for the page of information and for the APEX 6.5 unit. And make sure you don't forget to use the Dave and Sonya 5 discount code for 5% off of other big points. So I'm in Michigan. You can tell by my Dave and Sonya in Michigan YouTube channel name. And what we did for the trailer that we have, we get cold weather up here, and you can't charge these lithium iron phosphate batteries in cold weather. So anything below freezing, so 32 degrees and lower tends to be an issue. And I do have several videos on my batteries that I did where I actually put elbow heaters onto the sides and bottoms of my battery, and I leave those running all winter long, and that keeps my battery warm so that I'm not charging it when it's below freezing outside. But what's nice to know is this battery actually has internal heaters, and it will do it on its own, where on my battery setup, I leave the battery on the heater on the battery the entire winter. So I'm using, I think if I remember right, it's 288 watt hours per day just to run the heaters. It's only 12 watts at the 12 volts. But in here, they mentioned that it has the heating capability. And another point that I want to mention on here, and I do not have that on my other units, but this actually has fire suppression. So it has, if there's ever to be an issue on here, it can extinguish the fire itself. It's built into the unit. I do remember, I think when I bought my first units, so 5 years ago, they actually had that ability in 1 or 2 of their batteries. And I thought, well, that would be really nice to get, but not at the cost. So on this battery, spec sheet here, there's some commonly asked questions, and one of the questions I wanted to make sure I mentioned was how long will my battery last, and what do I do at the end of the life? That's always a concern, even with solar panel farms. You know, what do they do when the panels aren't good anymore? How do you recycle them? The windmill farms, you know, what do you do with those large fiberglass blades and stuff? But on here, the lithium iron phosphate batteries can last, can be cycled 3,500 to 5,000 times. And we really don't know for sure what that really means. Is it I can cycle it from 100% down to 20%, do that 5,000 times, or is it from 100% to 98%? But it's still just a number that they use on here. And if you cycle the batteries daily, then you can get more than 12 years of use from these batteries if you were to cycle the 3,500 to 5,000 times. So 12 years. But the rest of the question is, when your battery is at the end of its lifespan, contact us and we'll recycle it for you free of charge. So Big Battery, and part of their commitment, I did see on their website, they're committed to zero waste in the landfills. And that was one of their things was, if you can't find a local means to recycle these, they will work with you even on the shipping cost to ship it back to them and then to get it recycled. It might be easier for you if there's someone local where you can just send it to them. Sometimes they do it free of charge also. But worst case, 12 years after using this and you need to recycle it, Big Battery will help you. So same thing, 12 years that they have as their warranty on these batteries. If there's any issues, like I said, I haven't had any issues with my battery for 5 years that I've had it. I haven't had any issues with them, but for the 12 years, and the way it was worded in there was one repair, one replacement guarantee. So they will either repair it or replace it. I imagine if you had a second issue, then they probably just replace it. That's the way I read it. So that was really good on the battery. And then again, a lot of information in these documents, so please read them. On this is a 5-year warranty. So this is not the same as the 12-year warranty, but still 5-year warranty on this is also good. And just to mention those 2 items. So I believe that this is going to work out really good for Sonya and I. We're going to have it in. So this is the end of the video. So I said if you stick around, but I'm going to go over what I'm going to do with this one. So it's very similar to what I got in the trailer. The trailer is totally electrical, totally solar. I don't need a generator. I don't need propane, although occasionally we will have other means of cooking some stuff just for demonstrations and stuff that we do, but I don't need it. I have plenty of power. In the trailer, I actually leave the air conditioning on. I have people walk through the trailer, and I'm still 100% charged, especially through the day because the sun's still out, and I got plenty of solar on the roof of the trailer. So I had mentioned earlier that my trailer is a 12 kilowatt hour unit. This is 15, nearly 15, so 14.3. This is a little bit bigger than my trailer. My trailer has 2,100 watts of solar on it. This one's going to have 10,000 watts of solar on it. So I will have 5 times the solar. Not that that's been a problem for me with the trailer, but I will have the ability to charge this battery up from 0 to fully charged in about 1.5 hours. And if you know, in Michigan, in the winter time is when you're going to have the biggest issue. So in the winter time, we get, on average, on a good day, we get 3 hours of usable sunlight. So I need to be able to charge faster in the winter time. So if I can recharge this from dead, 0%, to fully charged within about 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours, because you're not going to get full 100% utilage of your 10,000 watt solar panel array. So I can probably charge in about 2 hours. So the capacity of this battery might get me to last, 2 or 3 days, maybe even longer, depending on what I'm using it for. I would only need one nice sunny day for 2 hours every 3 or 4 days. So that'll be good for this. The plan is that we will be able to use larger loads into this item and, in theory, not have to worry about checking to see what is my state of charge or how much power do I have. Am I going to have to worry about my refrigerator running, not being able to run over the night? Click up here for BigBattery.com solar calculator on calculating your battery size, your inverter size, and your PV panel size. And don't forget to use the discount code Dave and Sonya 5 for 5% discount across BigBattery.com. So in our plans for this next build, it's actually going to be a tiny house. It's going to be 8 foot deep, 24 foot wide, the house. Like in our trailer, I have air conditioning, which is a mini split, which can run in reverse in the wintertime and be used as a heat pump. So it provides a heat in the wintertime. The heat is actually a bigger consumer of battery than the air conditioning is. And the extra added problem of only having 3 hours of good sunlight in the wintertime, that's where the most of the challenge comes in. So our build is going to be a 192 square foot tiny house. I will have 6-inch thick walls. So I will have extra insulation in the walls. I will have extra thick flooring. I have an extra thick roof. I have 100% roof coverage with the solar panels. The panels will also cover a porch. That's how I get enough roof space to provide my solar panel input to the inverter. And I should have plenty of solar to charge this up. I should have plenty enough power to run AC, my heaters in the winter, my cook stove, my means of cooking. You'll see more of that as we go through the build. It won't be an official cook stove, but I do have cook stovetop type devices, so we'll get into that. The water heating and any of the other electrical means that I would need should be able to be covered by this unit. The TVs, the refrigerators, the microwaves, the air fryers, which is what I have today in my trailer. So you can watch the video. Again, there's a link down in the description for the link to the trailer. I also have the truck build. I will put both those in there. And then if you've made it this far along in the videos, make sure you subscribe and like this video, and you will be able to see our build of this tiny house. So that will be coming up here soon. And I also have in the description down below the link. I have a 5% discount for Big Battery. So anything that you buy from Big Battery, you use the code Dave and Sonya 5, so no spaces, just Dave and Sonya 5. You get a 5% discount, and that would apply for any of the items on BigBattery.com, even if it's not one of the items that Big Battery builds. So a lot of times too, if you get a certain minimum size order, they get free shipping. So make sure you like the channel, subscribe, and stay tuned for the other videos.